You are not addicted to your phone. You are addicted to what your phone delivers: the connection, the validation, the information, the entertainment, the escape. And the distinction matters enormously, because the problem is not the device. The problem is the relationship. The way you use technology is not a series of individual choices. It is a pattern, a deeply encoded behavioral architecture that was designed by some of the most sophisticated engineers, behavioral scientists, and product designers in the world, specifically to maximize the time and attention you spend inside their systems. You did not drift into a distracted, fragmented, perpetually online existence by accident. You were guided there, deliberately, profitably, and at enormous scale. Digital minimalism is not about rejecting technology. It is about reclaiming your relationship with it, about deciding intentionally which technologies serve your values and which ones quietly undermine them, about using your devices rather than being used by them. And in this video, you are going to get the framework that makes that possible, not through willpower, not through digital detoxes that last 3 days, but through a fundamental reorientation of how you think about technology and what you ask it to do in your life. The first thing to understand is what digital maximalism, the opposite of digital minimalism, actually costs you, not in abstract terms, in concrete, measurable, daily terms. Research on smartphone use consistently shows that the average person checks their phone between 80 and 150 times per day. That each notification, received or anticipated, produces a cortisol spike and a disruption of sustained attention that research shows takes an average of 23 minutes to fully recover from. That the mere presence of a smartphone on a desk, face down, silenced, not being used, measurably reduces available cognitive capacity in the person sitting next to it. That social media use above 2 hours per day is associated with significant increases in loneliness, anxiety, and depression, independent of the content consumed. That the blue spectrum light from screens in the 2 hours before sleep reduces melatonin by up to 50%, delays sleep onset, and reduces the proportion of restorative deep sleep. And that the fragmented, constantly interrupted attention pattern that smartphone use promotes is not just unpleasant, it literally rewires the brain towards shallower processing, reduced sustained attention capacity, and increased distractibility over time. These are not inconveniences. They are measurable biological and psychological costs that accumulate with every year of unreflective digital maximalism. The concept of digital minimalism begins with a distinction that most people have never been invited to make: the distinction between technology that serves your values and technology that merely fills your time. This is not about whether a technology is good or bad in some absolute sense. It is about whether this specific technology, used in this specific way, in this specific context, is adding genuine value to your life, or whether it is consuming time, attention, and energy that would be better directed elsewhere. The smartphone itself is not the problem. The smartphone as a portal to a curated, intentional set of tools that serve specific purposes in your life is potentially valuable. The smartphone as a slot machine that you carry in your pocket and consult compulsively throughout the day, often without knowing what you are looking for, that is a different thing entirely. And the question that digital minimalism asks, which most people never ask, is which one is actually describing your relationship with your device. The philosophy of digital minimalism rests on 3 core principles. The first is intentionality, the commitment to using technology with a specific purpose in mind, rather than out of habit, boredom, anxiety, or social reflex. Intentional technology use is characterized by knowing, before you pick up the device, what you are picking it up for, and putting it down when that purpose is served rather than drifting into the infinite scroll that follows. This sounds simple. For most people, it requires a complete restructuring of their daily habits, because the habit of reflexive, purposeless phone checking is one of the most deeply encoded behavioral patterns that modern life has produced. The second principle is optimization, the idea that less technology, used more deliberately, tends to produce more value than more technology used thoughtlessly. One social media platform used intentionally for 30 minutes produces more genuine connection and more positive emotional outcome than 3 platforms used compulsively for 3 hours. One communication channel, email, checked twice a day, produces more clarity and less anxiety than 6 channels, email, Slack, WhatsApp, iMessage, Instagram DMs, and LinkedIn messages, each demanding constant monitoring. The reduction in quantity enables the increase in quality. And the third principle is what you do with the time and attention that intentional technology use returns to you, because digital minimalism is not fundamentally about subtraction. It is about what becomes possible when distraction is removed and genuine attention is restored. The practical protocol for a digital minimalism reset has 4 phases. The first is Audit, an honest, specific inventory of every technology and digital service in your life, asking for each one. What value does this provide? And is that value proportionate to the time and attention it costs? This is not a rhetorical exercise. It is a practical accounting. And for most people, it reveals that a significant proportion of the technologies they use daily deliver negligible, genuine value relative to their cost in attention and time. The second phase is a 30-day digital declutter, a temporary removal of all optional technologies from your life, not as punishment, but as a reset that allows you to rediscover what genuine attention feels like and what activities and experiences you have been crowding out with digital consumption. The 30-day period is important, short enough to be achievable, but long enough for the neural patterns of compulsive checking to begin to weaken and for the alternative activities to begin to re-establish their intrinsic value. The third phase is selective reintroduction, the deliberate, criteria-based decision about which technologies to bring back and under what operating conditions. Not by default, but by choice. Not all platforms because you use some features of all of them, but the specific platforms that provide specific value for specific purposes, with specific constraints that prevent the compulsive drift that turned intentional use into addictive use in the first place. And the fourth phase is the cultivation of what digital minimalism makes possible, the deep leisure activities, the face-to-face connections, the sustained creative work, the contemplative practices, the presence to the physical world. That compulsive technology use was crowding out. The relationship between digital minimalism and everything else we have explored in this series is not incidental. It is foundational. The dopamine system that digital maximalism has dysregulated, addressed in our video. The attention capacity that compulsive phone use has fragmented, rebuilt through the focus protocol. The cortisol elevation that constant connectivity maintains, reduced through the stress regulation practices. The sleep architecture that blue light exposure is disrupting, protected through the circadian reset. The presence in relationships that divided attention is undermining, restored through the art of being present. The identity that is being constructed through social media consumption, rather than genuine self-reflection, reclaimed through the identity work. Digital minimalism is not one practice among many. It is the environmental condition that makes all the other practices possible. You cannot build a focused, intentional, deeply lived life inside a digital environment that was designed to fragment your attention, hijack your motivation, and keep you perpetually oriented toward the next notification. The environment must change first, or it must change alongside everything else. And digital minimalism is how you change it. If you made it to the end of this video, there is probably a technology in your life that you know is costing you more than it is giving you. One app, one platform, one habit of checking that happens before you have even decided to check. Start there. Not with a complete overhaul, with one deliberate change to one relationship with one technology. That single change, made with intention rather than impulse, is the first act of digital minimalism. And it is the beginning of something that most people have forgotten is possible. A life in which your attention belongs to you. Share this video with someone whose phone seems more present in conversations than they are, because sometimes the most generous thing you can offer someone is the permission to put it down. Subscribe to to continue this journey, because the next video is going to reveal something that connects directly to everything we have been building in this series. The vagus nerve. The most important nerve you have never heard of, and the biological key to calm, focus, emotional regulation, and the parasympathetic healing state that your entire life has been building toward. See you there.